Is the Dragon Ball Super English dub too liberal? No, I am not talking about politics. No, I am not talking about Trump and the left wing versus the right wing. I am talking about the Dragon Ball Super English dub being too liberal with its English scripts compared to the original Japanese scripts. So yeah, that's a disclaimer, just right off the bat. I am not talking about politics, or, specifically American politics. I'm Australian, so why would I need to? But yeah, too liberal, meaning the scripts being, too liberal in terms of the Japanese scripts and just comparing and contrasting. So here we go. Do I think this? No, I don't think so. I don't think they are being too liberal with the property and the Dragon Ball Super brand as a whole when it comes to dubbing the anime. I don't think the scripts are too liberal. I do think that they are liberal with their scripts sometimes, but it's only for comedic purposes. And, the show embraces the fans, which is good since they need to give back to the fans that made Funimation even possible, since without Dragon Ball and its fans, there's no Funimation, but it kind of weakens the product in the long run, I should say, when, it's too liberal. And the reason why it's liberal is because of the self-referential and meme humor, kind of like, for instance, the Super Saiyan Please, that's sort of embracing the self-referential meme culture, and I did a whole video on that. Is Dragon Ball Super too self-aware in the English dub? I'll leave a link to that in the description. So this is sort of a spiritual successor, so I'm going to go through a couple of key points and sort of determine if the Dragon Ball Super English dub is too liberal with its scripts. Most of the time, in regards to the accuracy and the story, it's spot on. It's absolutely fine. But with a couple of character quirks is where some issues come in of it, quote-unquote being too liberal. So the first point is that Goku sounds kind of like a surfer dude in the English dub, while he is supposed to sound like a hick in the Japanese. Now, it's kind of difficult for Goku to sound like a hick in the English version without having a full-blown country accent, because that's what Americans sort of come to expect when you hear sort of hick or country boy, is those like southern sort of accents, like Louisiana, like those sort of like yeehaw, 1, 2, 3, 4, type of accents. So in the Japanese, it's way more, easier to pull off because he uses a dialect that sounds hick. He sounds like a country boy. He doesn't sound like a properly educated man, using the dialect that Goku does. So in the dub, while not giving him like a sort of southern accent, he does sort of have surfer lingo by saying like dude and man and, what's up dude, stuff like that. So it's not necessarily like, a surfer dude lingo, but it's kind of on that fine line. Goku doesn't go like, surf's up dude, stuff like that, but it's teetering that fine line. And I'm okay with this. I'm okay with Goku sounding like sort of that sort of dude, what's up guy? Sort of approach, as that's the closest thing you can get to Goku sounding like a hick. And I'm appreciative of Funimation and Chris Sabat and the ADR sort of script, managers and the script writers that, they did try to incorporate Goku's hick side. I do appreciate that. And, yeah, so is that too liberal? Not really. I mean, it sort of is, but it's sort of the best way to translate sort of Goku's hick side without giving him a country accent. So the second point I want to address is Zeni instead of Zenchan. Of course, we know that Goku gave Zeno, the king of everything, the Omni King, a little nickname, a little pet name, just to sort of symbolize that they're friends and, they're just goofing around and they're just sort of tight with one another. So in the dub, Goku calls him Zeni, while in the Japanese, he calls him Zenchan. Now, is this too liberal? Is this going too far? No, of course not. It's not too accurate, but it's a nice sort of transition into English, it's a nice adaptation. And that's what a dub really is. I mean, while the Dragon Ball Super dub does change things to fit sort of that meme culture and self-referential humor, it does still be accurate, and it's still an adaptation after all. It doesn't have to be a one-to-one translation, and I think Chris Sabat knows this. Of course, he's a dub director. So yeah, anyway, Zeno Zenny versus Zenchan. Zenny's cool. I like this little nickname, and it's the best way they could have gone with, because obviously they can't do like Zenchan, because Chan is like a, it's a Japanese way of speaking, so it can't really translate into that. So Zenny works. I like that. Now the second point I want to make in regards to sort of pronunciations of stuff is Shao instead of Shu. And this actually didn't originate in Dragon Ball Super or Resurrection F, the movie, how, Pilaf says Shao instead of Shu. And in the Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball GT English dubs, it was always Shu, but in the Resurrection F movie by Funimation, it was changed to Shao, and that's always been the case moving forward. Now, while this is the first inclusion in the Resurrection F dub of it being Shao in the in-house Funimation dub, in the BLT 1995 original, Funimation dub of Dragon Ball, they named him Shao instead of Shu. Why is this the case? Well, I go into it in another video, so check that out, links in the description, as well as I said before, the video about is the Dragon Ball Super dub being too self-referential and too self-aware, which this video is a spiritual sort of success to that. Anyway, the first point of the first episode, the first lines that we get to hear is from the narrator, and he says, and the planet has enjoyed several more months of peace, indicating the time, span of where Dragon Ball Super takes place. And this was in the dub, and in the Japanese, it's some time has passed since then. So is that being too liberal? I think so. It's being too liberal because it doesn't specify, months of peace. It doesn't specify that in the Japanese, so why are they doing it in the dub? That's kind of weird. And, while it's pretty vague, it's not as vague as the Japanese, so I think that's being a little too liberal, in terms of the script. And, yeah, like I was saying before, I think, apart from these little sort of things here and there regarding, character names and, sort of dialects that people use and certain lines, the story is accurate and not liberal whatsoever. And even if it is liberal, sometimes it's usually an error. One example is episode 2 of the dub. Vegeta goes, well, I defeated Majin Buu in the English dub. Well, that is not the case. That was just a mistake, Oftentimes when a script turns out to be very liberal with its translations and adaptation, it just turns out to be an error, and that was fixed in the home release. So to conclude, the English dub, it does have moments that are very liberal, such as the self-referential and meme humor, but apart from them, the show isn't really being damaged too badly, and it's an accurate dub overall. I don't really see the huge fuss in the English dub having not accurate translations, like I've seen other people say, some people say that it's too liberal. I don't think so. I think it's just the right amount, because this is an adaptation at the end of the day. It's not a one-to-one translation. So, yeah. And the dub is just an extra new flavor with the dialogue, especially with Beerus and Whis. Beerus and Whis have really great remarks in the English dub, which actually exceed and I think is superior than the Japanese dub. Some of the dialogue is just really funny, and it's just, has that extra flavor. And I think the Japanese is better, but the English dub is kind of like the sauce on top. It's not required, it's optional, but just, it adds that extra flavor that, sort of makes things more enjoyable throughout the West. And it just gives an extra flavor for the people, that are fans of a franchise to actually consume. And, yeah. That's basically it. What do you guys think? Is the Dragon Ball Super dub not accurate or too liberal in parts? Let me know in the comments. As always, please make sure to subscribe to the channel for other videos, similar to this one, Dragon Ball Super English dub. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little spiritual throwback, sequel, whatever you want to call it, spin-off of the Is the Dragon Ball Super English dub too self-aware? And yeah, also, thank you for the support on that video that almost, reached 200,000 views. That's incredible. So yeah, I do hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, my final take is, It's not too liberal. It is liberal in some parts. Obviously, we're not talking about politics, as I said. But, yeah, at the end of the day, it's an adaptation, not a translation. So, yeah, that's going to do it for me. Please make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye. Take care.